Thank you for joining us for this community meeting to introduce you to the current engagement opportunities for the comprehensive plan. I'm Scott Whiteman with the comprehensive planning staff team, joined by my colleagues, Brooke Ganser, Carl Kolosna, Nikki McDonald, and Lisa Miller. We know that folks are coming to this meeting with different background information on this project and different levels of understanding about how the comprehensive plan impacts our community. So we're going to start by talking about how we're approaching this work and what has been done so far. Our purpose this evening is to introduce you to the current engagement opportunities for the comprehensive plan, walk through how to use the tools we've created for engagement, and share ways that you can engage with your fellow community members on this work over the next couple of months. As we get started with some background, I invite you all, if you're willing, to share in the chat box your name, the neighborhood or community you're a part of, and share one thing that you value about the Durham community. We'll take a moment to let folks joining by phone share their responses in a few minutes. Just let me know if you'd like to share by hitting *9 to raise your hand.
Hey, Scott, it looks like Nancy is raising her hand.
All right. Nancy, did you want to answer that question?
Hi, I think I raised my hand by mistake.
Oh, that's all right. Not the first time that's happened since March of 2020.
Thanks, great to be here.
Thank you. All right, I'm gonna go to the next slide, Brooke. So our work on the new comprehensive plan started in the summer of 2019. As our work began, the city's equitable community engagement blueprint was being developed by the city, and the city and county were beginning work towards more equitable engagement. Through early conversations with our colleagues in the Neighborhood Improvement Services Department, we established a commitment to work towards equitable engagement for the comprehensive plan based on the blueprint. So let's talk about what a comprehensive plan is and how it can impact equity in our community. Our comprehensive plan directs what can be built where in Durham. It guides what size and kind of homes can be built in different parts of the community, where schools and businesses can be located, and where streets should be built. The plan acts as a blueprint for how Durham will develop today and in the future. The plan includes recommendations and guidance for big decisions that local government may make. How and where should farmland be created or preserved? How do we connect more residents to jobs, housing, and schools? What are Durham's infrastructure needs, like water, sewer, transportation, and other services? What kind of environmental protection should we have? How should Durham care for its existing neighborhoods and longtime residents, particularly those who have been ignored or harmed by big decisions in the past? Durham looks the way it does because previous plans and policies determined how it could grow and develop. In the past, government and private decisions about where to locate land uses, both desirable and less desirable, have not been equitable. This is not an accident, and it's one of the primary ways that racial discrimination is seen in our physical environment. For example, less desirable industrial land uses like incinerators, landfills, factories, and salvage yards have been placed within or near traditionally Black neighborhoods and away from traditionally white neighborhoods. At the same time, desirable land uses that are necessary for people to access daily resources, like small commercial areas and parks, are lacking or missing in many traditionally Black neighborhoods. Equitable access to the benefits of growth, development, and land use decisions are foundational in our current work to determine where different land uses should be located in the future. With all of this in mind, we began this project in the fall of 2019 and winter of 2020 with the listening and learning engagement for this project. We heard from over 1,000 residents that what they wanted in an ideal Durham and what else was on their mind about Durham. With all of that input from residents, we asked, how do we listen to, respect, and honor the voice of residents who've been disinvested in and actively harmed by planning in the past? And how do we turn that lived experience into community goals and objectives? The community goals and objectives that were adopted by the county commissioners and the city council this summer describe a clearly articulated vision from our residents for Durham's future. Now comes the hard work of translating this vision from our community into the technical planning tools that impact how land is used in our community. The new comprehensive plan will be made up of words and a map. The map will show a desired future place type for every property in the city and county. The words include policy recommendations, which will be the focus of engagement next spring. These policies will lay out instructions for how the planning department and the rest of Durham local government will work to make the vision of the community goals and objectives a reality, because there are limits to how much of our community's vision can be articulated solely through a place type map. We have developed a draft community-wide place type map. The intent of this map is to apply the community's vision to actual places in our community. Our engagement over the next few months is focused on hearing from you how we can better reflect the community vision in the draft map. The place type map will replace the future land use map from our 2005 comprehensive plan. Since 2005, that map has been used to guide growth, plan where new services will be needed, and make decisions about whether to approve certain kinds of new development. However, the categories in the 2005 map are very general and do not provide enough detail about what places should look like. The proposed place type map includes more detailed information in the place type descriptions about what new development should look like, how it should function to serve residents and workers, and how it should be served by city and county services. To close out the background on the project so far, we want to share some highlights of the kinds of places that residents told us they want to see and that came through in the community goals and objectives. Residents want all neighborhoods to have safe and easy walkable access to schools, community centers, shopping areas, restaurants, and green space, integrated within and around neighborhoods to allow us to access daily needs, connect with one another, and to build relationships. Residents want to see neighborhoods change incrementally to incorporate a variety of housing options that are affordable and attainable to those with the least access to housing. Residents want to see an improved transportation network and connectivity throughout Durham by prioritizing residents who walk, bike, roll, or ride transit. Residents want to see proposed developments that preserve or restore the surrounding natural areas and promote and encourage walkability. When vacant lots in already developed areas are filled in with new uses, Residents want to see this development fit in with the scale of the neighborhood and provide access to daily needs. Residents want to see some of the car-oriented places, like shopping areas with large parking lots, incrementally change through the addition of buildings and retrofits of existing sites so that these places become more walkable, with safe pedestrian, bike, and transit access to and from the site. We have a short video to share now that talks about the different pieces of the comprehensive plan. We'll have some time for questions and answers on all this information following the video.
Hello, this is a presentation brought to you by the Durham City County Planning Department about the different pieces of the comprehensive plan. Our community is constantly changing. Think about your neighborhood. What has changed? What has stayed the same? Change in our community has impacts for residents who live in Durham today. Many residents in Durham have not benefited from this change and have been actively harmed by it. We need a better plan that can help manage this change in a way that benefits all residents. In Durham, the City County Planning Department regulates how land is used. There are rules about what each property can be used for, called zoning. These rules also regulate what developers are allowed to build. Planning decisions affect how our neighborhoods look, how we access the resources we need, and what infrastructure is needed to support life in Durham. Over time, local government has regulated land in ways that give some people more access than others. Access can mean access to better schools, jobs, transportation, or green spaces. Think about your neighborhood. Can you afford to live there? Are there grocery stores, schools, or parks that you can easily and safely get to? What's missing? What do you need more of? The rules in Durham need to be rewritten to work towards complete communities where everyone has access to the things they need, particularly those who have not had this access in the past. To start rewriting the rules, the Durham Planning Department needs your help to create a new comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan outlines a community vision in the form of policies and a map that say what should be built where in Durham. In practice, a comprehensive plan's place type map and policies are used together to check if what a developer is proposing to build matches what the community wants to see. The place type map and policies help guide decisions made by elected officials about whether development should be approved. Also, the place type map and policies can help us decide if new zoning districts should be created to match what the community wants to see and can help work towards greater access to the things we need. As our community grows and changes over time, we will need to invest in the infrastructure to sustain our neighborhoods. Staff will use the place type map to understand where future water, sewer, or transportation demand might be based on what kind of development is expected where, and plan for new or upgraded infrastructure projects. Think of the comprehensive plan as a roadmap to the future we want to build together. How would you shape Durham? Thank you so much for watching. Please visit ENGAGEDurham.com to learn more about the Durham Comprehensive Plan and get involved today.
Okay. Before we begin going into some of the more detail on place types and the map, let's pause and find out what questions you have on the information shared so far. We will have time at the end of the meeting to have feedback and answer more questions. Adam, I see your hand is raised.
Yeah, hi. My name's Adam. I live in South Durham. I was wondering if a little bit more information could be provided about what the comprehensive plan has in store concretely for more access to affordable housing. I'm not sure if it's all right to ask that since you were asking a little bit about what comes before, but I'd really like to know.
Yeah, so our current comprehensive plan has very limited discussion about affordable housing. It was not as much of an issue in 2005 when that was adopted. That is something that we've heard as a very important in our goals and objectives. But it's something that's still, as the comprehensive plan is still under development, something that the details that we're still working through.
Is there anything in it thus far?
Only what's in our goals and objectives, which is strongly indicates that people want housing that's affordable to everyone to live. But the policies and how we deal with that are what's going to be happening during the next phase of the comprehensive plan. I see there's another question in the chat. It has, if there are any questions about kind of the comprehensive plan and the process so far, we'll answer those now. If you have specific questions about what's in the plan or what should be in the plan, if you could save those to later in the meeting, we can make sure to answer those then. You might have a better idea of we might answer your question, or you might have a better idea of when that particular issue might come up. Good question, Adam. So we're anticipating the final comprehensive plan to be adopted by the City Council and the County Commission in late 2022. And it's a public hearing process that would go to the Durham Planning Commission, the City Council, and the County Commission. All right, well, thanks for those questions. And as I said, to hold those of you, Judith, if you just hang on to your question, we can talk about that one later on in the meeting. But I'm going to turn it over now to Brooke to show you the proposed map and how it's used. And we'll be hearing feedback and answer more questions later.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. And good evening, everyone. My name is Brooke Ganser, and I will be walking through the second part of our agenda. So we'll now transition to talk about some place type examples, discuss how we can use place types in practice, and then we'll show specifically how you can provide feedback on the place type map and the place type guide. So generally, we anticipate that some areas in Durham are less likely to change or will not experience a whole lot of change over the next couple of decades. Some examples of places like these are parks and protected green spaces, as shown on the left of a park, or established residential areas, as shown on the right, where there are small lots and many different property owners. You may still see some renovations or changes to the outside of these buildings, or additions of smaller houses behind existing homes, but we don't expect large-scale physical changes within neighborhoods. But we do anticipate that some areas in Durham will experience more change over the next couple of decades. Places that are more likely to change in Durham may include land without existing buildings, as shown on the left of a field or forested area. the image in the middle of a large parking lot and in older shopping centers like on the right that are more suburban in character, again with those large parking lots or spaces for new buildings. To demonstrate the concepts that we've been talking about, what we are engaging on this fall and how it applies to the real world, here is an example of a place in Durham that could see significant change over time. This is a Google Map view of the Triangle Village Shopping Center at the intersection of Highway 55 and 54, just below I-40 and just west of the Research Triangle Park. This area currently provides goods and services to Durham residents, and we can see that there are existing restaurants, big box stores, grocery, and other shops. This area of Durham is served by bus lines with bus stops, sidewalks in some places, and is served by city water and sewer. So it could be an area where some of the lots here see the addition of new buildings or renovations. These two images show the Triangle Village Shopping Center. You can see large properties with large parking areas and standalone stores or large strip malls. There's also a lot of impervious surfaces in this area, meaning that this land is covered in concrete or asphalt where rainwater cannot pass through the soil. And this causes flooding when it rains. Some of these lots have buildings or structures on them and have minimal green space. So any new development in the area would not involve clear cutting a forest or disrupting protected natural areas, like you may see in some places along the edges of our town. So when we think about places like this and how it may change in the future, we take in a few considerations, including the things I mentioned about existing conditions, what patterns we're seeing in the development recently, and how the sites might be served or are currently served by infrastructure and services. We also consider community input and engagement that may have been done in these places in the past, and also what residents want to see there. A lot of times, we are not always sure what residents want to see. This is why we have an initial draft place type map for Durham residents to share feedback on specific places and geographies that you know because you live and experience these places every day. So specifically for the Triangle Village Shopping Center area, our team looked at how the area currently has large big box stores, parking lots, and restaurants with access to frequent bus services. So because of these characteristics, this area could see change in the future that adds more buildings and destinations to what are currently large parking areas. So what that looks like on the map is a place type designation called a transit opportunity area, which describes a primarily commercial area that has the potential to become walkable and accessible to nearby residents and serves the surrounding neighborhoods with a focus on bus connections to other areas. So as a reminder, the place type map is accompanied by the place type guide, which provides details on what that place type is, a snapshot of the place type guide description for the transit opportunity area place type can be seen here on the left in English and on the right in Spanish. And the description here reads that transit opportunity areas are moderately sized places found throughout our community at the junction of major transit stops. The place type designation impacts what happens in an area. The place type that's assigned right now, the transit opportunity area, would mean a lot of change, and that kind of change would look like a moderately sized area with new buildings, including new commercial and residential buildings, and is well connected by sidewalks, bike paths, and bus service. It should be dense with buildings set close together, but also designed in a way that serves residents who are using this as a transfer point and seeks to minimize negative impacts on the surrounding neighborhoods. If that kind of change is not what the community wants to see there, then another place type that would fit here could be the suburban commercial place type, which looks similar to what is currently there now, with opportunity for newer buildings to be added to the underused parking areas, but may be less compact with buildings set a little farther apart. We still envision this kind of place improving over time in terms of sidewalk connectivity and green space, but it is a smaller change. If this is something you have thoughts on, would love your input on the map, and we do have discussion time at the end of this meeting. For this round of fall engagement, we want the community to give us feedback on the map and guide drafts. The big opportunity with this process is that residents have a first say in what areas in Durham should look like in the future, before a project is proposed and before an application is being reviewed by elected officials to consider new development. Staff has relied heavily on past engagement to make this initial draft, but we need your help to understand what changes should be made. Just another note about place type categories. Durham is a big place, and this plan covers both the city and the county. So our places range from very dense, urban, and walkable to rural, agricultural, and large open spaces. We have 20 different place types in the guide that are supposed to encompass the range of places, but still be broad categories. Another part of the plan that helps us understand how to guide new development includes the comprehensive plan policies that are being worked on right now. These policies are things that we cannot easily map and are crucial to guiding how development should occur, not just what development should look like. Policies consider things like how development should fit into the surrounding area, who the development is serving, and other details like street trees, sidewalks, green space, etc. Basically, place types provide a general idea of what different areas should be in the future, and we can get more specific as we go along in the planning process with policies. We are working with groups of residents and staff to begin brainstorming policies right now. So draft policies will be included in community-wide engagement in the spring of 2022. So with that, I want to just briefly show the engagement tools that we have developed so you know where to find them and how to provide feedback. I'm gonna reshare my screen. Okay, so we are on the social pinpoint page. Engagement this fall is focused on hearing about the types of places you would like to see in your neighborhood in the future. Place types are used to describe and map the kinds of places we want to see in Durham. We drafted a place type map based on previous comprehensive plan engagement and would love to hear what you think. We want to know what you would add or change. The final map will help guide growth and development for every property in the city and the county. So this screen is showing the comprehensive plan social pinpoint website where you can see what phase the project is in and how to participate and provide input. Again, the focus of this phase of engagement is on the place type map. The map is made up of place types, which are categories, again, that describe how a place may look in the future and what the community wants to see there. The map shows where the place types are located on every piece of land in Durham. So scrolling down to the community meetings part of the webpage. On this page are the community meeting registration links. Hopefully you all found this information on Social Pinpoint or on our Engage Durham comprehensive plan homepage helpful when you signed up for tonight's meeting. Please help us share out our last meeting for January 12th with your friends and neighbors so they can get involved in this work. We are also working to post meeting recordings for folks who may want to watch. To get started on the map, you can click on the place type map button. This is an interactive map, meaning you can zoom in and out, read about the proposed place type for an area, and add comments. This map is also accompanied by Spanish text on the side. The splash screen gives instructions on what to do here, and you can dismiss it by clicking I agree to the above terms and conditions. You must check the box for the terms to move on, which is simply the explanation you see on the screen. So once you check the box and click OK, you will first see the map. It will be zoomed out all the way so you can see all of Durham County. On the right-hand side, you have a legend. This legend includes the draft place types. They are hyperlinked, so you can click on each one to open up the place type guide description and read more about what they mean. For example, if you click on the transit opportunity area place type, a new tab will appear with the description in Spanish and in English. So now back to the map. The other legend items include an urban growth boundary and a future growth area. The urban growth boundary is a line staff is proposing that city water and sewer not be extended past to keep those areas mostly rural and protect our environmental resources. Future growth areas, which are generally found adjacent to the urban growth boundary, are places that could see significant change if the city decides to add water, sewer, or fire service in those areas in the future. So on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see more tools. The plus button allows you to zoom in. You can also scroll with your mouse or double click to zoom in. You have to be pretty closely zoomed in to be able to add a comment to the map. The minus button allows you to zoom out. You can also scroll with your mouse to zoom out. A printer button is also available on the left-hand side if you would like to print the map. This tool allows you to export a PDF copy of the view you're zoomed in at. There's also an option to change the background display on the map if you prefer to look at the satellite view or see additional map information. There are some other helpful tools you can explore as well, but those are the basics. So with that, we are ready to begin adding feedback. To find a location based on an address, you can use this address bar to type in a location. Let's say you're interested in what place type City Hall is designated. So you would type in 101 City Hall Plaza in the search bar and press enter. So the map will zoom into the location you entered. You can see this blue color and acronym DT means City Hall is designated as the downtown place type. This pop-up has a link to the place type guide if you need to access more information. You can also click the button to add a comment, which will appear on the map after you submit a short survey. We're really interested in hearing information from you that is tied to specific locations in Durham to inform changes to the map and understand what you need in your community. So when you click, oops. So when you click add comment, you will be brought to a new tab. In this survey, you may choose to comment on a specific property's place type or give a comment about a general area. If you choose general area, neighborhood, or intersection, a series of questions will appear. So you can help us understand more about what you'd like to see in this area. Additionally, if you're commenting on a general area, please give us a description of where you're commenting on. Scrolling down, there is a second page that will take you to the demographic questions before you submit your comment. Oops, you have to select one. So when you submit your comment will appear on the map, but will not display the demographic questions. So you can click on other folks' comments and read what other people are saying. Now you can click submit on the map, which will refresh your comment. When you are done, you can use this home button. Let me go back to the map. You can use this home button that looks like a house that will bring you back to the full county view. So that is how you navigate the place type map and add a comment. Now we'll transition to commenting on the place type guide. So we are back on the social pinpoint site. To comment on the place type guide, you'll click learn more next to the draft place type guide engagement button. And there's a brief survey at the top of the page if you have feedback on any of the place types you've read. So here you can click on the survey. And here is the very brief survey you can take for the place type guide. And you can read in detail about every place type below. Again, the place type guide acts as a key for the place type map and provides detail on the characteristics for each place type in Durham. So once again, going back to the main web page to look at the resident engagement toolkit, which is the third way you can get involved. The Resident Engagement Toolkit is a tool we hope you will use to help us reach other community members, since this engagement is geographically specific and covers all of Durham. We need your help to share information and encourage others to provide their feedback on the place type map and guide. The Resident Engagement Toolkit page has downloads of flyers and an activity to engage other residents on the map and the guide. This work is completely voluntary, but will be crucial in ensuring we hear from a wide range of residents in this engagement phase. All right, so thank you so much for learning how to provide feedback on the comprehensive plan. The feedback again closes on January 31st, 2022, and we look forward to hearing from you. I'm gonna open it up if there are any questions on the map tool before we move on for discussion.
So, Brooke, we've had a couple of questions that have come in, not so much related to the map, but I just wanted to answer those and say some of those out loud before, and maybe any questions come in about the map. So the first one was from Judith, who asked, what provisions are in place to improve biking and walking infrastructure and connections between housing developments? So since we're in the middle of the plan, we don't have those policies in place yet, but the importance of biking and walking infrastructure was a really strong theme from the engagement, the community engagement that we've done so far. So as a result, we have a number of our community goals and objectives, which are sort of the overarching guidance for how to develop the plan. So we have a number of those goals and objectives that talk very specifically about the importance and the need to maintain and improve the biking and walking infrastructure. And we had another question from Lester, sort of in a similar vein, that says, do you intend to preserve as many trees as possible? If you approve building on treed areas, will you require adding in significant tree plantings? Again, this is a theme, the need and the importance for preserving tree canopy that came up a lot in the engagement that we've done so far. So the same as the transportation and the need for biking and walking, we have a number of community goals and objectives that talk explicitly about the need for maintaining our tree canopy that we have, and particularly when new development happens, to preserve or enhance the tree canopy that in some cases is cut down when development happens. There was another question Jonathan had about the map specifically, and the question was, can federal property be listed on the final version of the map and listed as undevelopable? If that's the case, I see where there are some of that federal lands listed as recreation and open space, but doesn't have any public access to those sites. So the answer is yes, that is absolutely the intent for land, for example, floodplain land that is owned by the Army Corps of Engineers that we definitely don't want to be developed. That is indicated as recreation and open space on the map. And the intent for that place type category, the recreation and open space one, is that it would include both land, like maybe a park perhaps, where there's not a lot of development on it, but there is some recreational potential. That's included in the category. But then also that land, like the Army Corps of Engineer land, for example, that would be completely undeveloped, that would not have any public access to it, where people should not be, and that should be preserved in perpetuity. So both of those types are encompassed under the recreation and open space categories. And I see there's a question that just came in from Nancy that says, As more and more of Durham is developed, how will you ensure that our watershed is protected and stormwater runoff is managed? I think that this is a similar answer to the ones I've given before, which is that this has come up in our engagement a lot. And we currently have some development regulations that are designed to protect our watershed and to control stormwater runoff. And as we're developing the policies, which is sort of the second part of the comprehensive plan, we will be again using the goals and objectives, which have very specific language about the importance and the need for watershed protection and stormwater runoff. So those goals and objectives will be the basis and the foundation of how we're developing policies and programs that will be put in place in the future after the plan is adopted. And please let me know if anybody has any more questions. It doesn't look like any more questions have come in, so I think Brooke will go on to the next section. So thank you very much, both Lisa and Brooke. So today we've discussed at a high level what the comprehensive plan is, why it's important, and specifically about the place types, which is the focus of the engagement that is going to be going on through the end of January. So Brooke just shared with us a walkthrough of the map tool. Now we'd like to spend a little bit of time basically having a condensed version of the sort of discussion that we hope that this tool will help facilitate. So our discussion today is going to be focused on the rough area of South Durham. So don't worry too much about the exact boundaries of South Durham. It's just a general reference. Basically, we're meaning the area south of downtown Durham, but really whatever South Durham means to you is totally good for today. So to get us grounded, I'd like to encourage everyone to close their eyes for just a few moments and think about the space and the land that comes to mind when you think of South Durham. Maybe imagine that you're a bird flying in the air and looking down on the land and the space below you. What do you see when you look down and as you move around South Durham? What patterns are there? And what sticks out in terms of how the land is being used? There are some very tall buildings. There are some shorter ones. Some are closer together and some are more far apart. There are places with little or no buildings or development at all. And some places in land may have changed, maybe a lot in recent memory. So go ahead and open your eyes, and thank you. So to start our discussion today, we'd like to basically just ask a few basic questions and have folks respond to them. And we'll be dropping this in the chat as well. So the very first question that we want to think about today is, what changes to how land in your community is being used have you seen? And what changes would you like to see? And please be specific. Talk about individual places, talk about road intersections, talk about places that you think of when you think of South Durham. So again, that question is, what changes to how land in your community is being used have you seen, maybe recently or maybe over a long time? And what changes would you like to see in the ways that land is used in South Durham? So we'll go ahead, if people have comments or responses to that they want to put in the chat, or if folks want to raise their hand, we'd be happy to turn on the audio. And I'm just going to read out some of the responses as they're coming in. And Fred, I see your question, which is a great one, which I'll be sure to talk about. The short answer is that yes, we have been talking with the Farmland Preservation Board. So we have one comment that says high density single family home where the garage is a predominant feature. So again, that question is, what changes to how land in your community is being used have you seen? and what changes would you like to see? And please try to be as specific as possible. We see another development that's another question that says high density development with more character. And I think we've got one person who's got their hand raised. Jonathan, let me turn on here if you want to go ahead.
Hey, I just couldn't type fast enough, and I figured it'd be faster to speak. I have property on George King Road, and Ephesus Church Road, that's just to the north side of George King, has over the past 5 years kind of exploded with housing developments and things like that. And then also to the west of me, through the woods on Farrington Road, there's been lots of development that's there as well, which is west of 40. And the cool thing about the character of George King Road is that it's very rural. It's a rocky dirt road, which of course on your map, you really can't tell that, that it's not a high use paved road kind of thing. And I think, so what I've seen is lots of development, and they are planned development and kind of cookie cutter, but the native species and native habitat that I feel like that we're losing a lot of that due to the development. And I didn't really see any provisions in the land use plan to kind of keep some of the native species for Durham County alive and growing. A lot of these developments are low maintenance developments, which means that it's just grass and or paved as much as possible. So I'd like to see a lot of some focus on preserving native habitat and native species specifically, to put in there that native plants are preferred over ornamental stuff from the nurseries.
Great, thank you so much, Jonathan. That's really good feedback. And I just put a link in the chat to one of our goals and objectives that is titled Harmonious and Respectful Development. And I think there's some language in there and in some of the other environmental objectives that talk explicitly about the need to preserve important plants and animal species, whether rare or just important for ecological functions. That's something that's come through in our engagement a lot. I wanted to lift up, Brenda had a comment that said extensive clearing for multifamily development along Highway 54, and that you would like to ensure replantings or more constrained development in that area. That's really good feedback as well. I see Nancy has in the chat, I'm seeing a great deal of development and want to see the city and county actually purchase tracts through the area to preserve them as open space. That's a really great comment as well. Sometimes just buying the land and keeping it in preservation forever is one of the the strongest way to ensure the preservation of land. It is expensive to buy up all that land, but that's something that we've heard a number of times. I see Fred has your hand raised, so go ahead. I'm going to click the button here. You should be able to unmute now, Fred. See if you click your, I think it should be working if you click your unmute button. I see that you're unmuted, but I can't hear you, Fred. I'm not sure if anybody else is hearing you. Maybe setting up microphone settings. Yeah, a couple folks on my team. I'm going to keep your audio channel open. So Fred, please just feel free to jump in if you're able to get your audio working. So these are really good questions and responses that we're hearing so far. I have another question that I wanted to walk through. So when you think about your neighborhood or your community or the place and the land and the space that you know, whether it's in South Durham or anywhere in Durham, what do you love about that neighborhood or community? And what do you want to preserve or stay the same? Yeah, I'm not sure, Fred, why that's. Yeah, maybe switching your microphone to a different input. So the question we're thinking about now, and feel free to answer the first one as well. What do you love about your neighborhood and what do you want to preserve or stay the same? This is important to think about as we're mapping out using the place type map. What kind of development do we want to see? And what do we want to stay the same? And what areas maybe do we want to change? Okay, great. I see some comments coming in. So Elizabeth said, I love the over 100-year-old hardwoods found throughout. I very much want to see these very old trees survive and thrive, change the clear cutting. And Brenda said, love the green spaces in our neighborhood and would like to prevent any new building on that land. Those are both somewhat similar concepts about the need for preservation of our environment. Nancy said, walkability of the area and streets designed to prevent fast cut-through traffic. That's great as well. Jonathan, I see you've got your hand raised again. I'm not sure if that was kept over from the other one, but I'll unmute you here.
Yeah, I raised it again. Currently on the map, our area is listed as a mixed residential neighborhood. And, you know, the thing that we would like to preserve for our current area is that it is a rural road. And I understand from the definitions of the mixed use neighborhood and mixed residential neighborhood that both of those take forested land and then they give a housing mix that can include apartments, condominiums, townhouses, senior residences, single family homes, which is what we have there now, but it also includes duplexes, accessory dwelling units, and tiny homes. And I feel like that it's a very broad, it's kind of like the Wild West. You know, we're going from a rural area of single family homes to the Wild West of anything can go. And it just seems to be as a mismatch with what we currently have. So I'd like to kind of keep it as a rural area, I guess would be my comment.
That's a great comment. And that's a good example of how, so the place type categories, you're exactly right. That's what the mixed residential place type category is. We also have some basically lower density or less intense uses that are more rural in character. Rural Preserve, I believe is the name of one of them. So that would be a perfect example of a time where you might want to go in and add a comment into that area and say, here are my thoughts about what a mixed residential development would look like in this area. And I have some concerns about that. Maybe this other place type that's lower density or a little less intense would be a better fit for it. And that would be a really good comment to get on the map so that we can understand how we need to adjust and think about the place type map as we're developing it. This round that we're doing right now is just the very first round of engagement on the place type map, and we will be continuing to refine it basically up towards the adoption of the plan, which we're hoping will start near the end of next year. I see a couple more comments coming in as well. we've got Randall said, I love the presence of community managed common lands that arose during the period in which our neighborhood was outside of the city. Nancy has a comment that says, keeping the green space corridors in Parkwood, no more building of new housing. And Elizabeth said, keeping George King rural would also be ecologically advantageous because of the large amounts of water in this area and the high water table. Those are all great comments as well. Fred, I'm not sure if you were able to get your audio working. If you want to speak up, please feel free. We've got another comment. I'm seeing so much multifamily development of very large townhouses, and I prefer to see multi-level single-family houses instead, and would also love to see many new greenways. It's a great comment as well. So I think we'll take a couple more minutes, see if folks have more comments or if folks have any questions as we're tending towards getting to the closeout of our meeting today. So we've got back to the character comment. We'd like to see less cookie cutters. And I see, Fred, you've got your comment in there talking about a good portion of that farmland being under farmland conservation easement already. And the plans are to keep that land in farm use for this foreseeable future. So our family feels pretty strongly that the land should be under the RAR classification, which is the Rural and Agricultural Preserve. So please feel free. I'd really encourage you to put a comment on the map saying exactly that. And we're going to capture the chat that we're hearing here tonight as well. Sorry about that. I did the thing where I muted myself. Thank you, everyone. So I was saying, thank you for these comments. This is the kind of information that we're hoping that the place type map and the guide will facilitate and generate as people are thinking about it and considering it. Again, this is just a first draft that we've put out, and engagement on this is going to continue throughout basically the majority of next year, as well as we're heading towards hoping to begin the adoption process for the plan near the end of next year. And Fred said, thank you to everyone who left positive comments about the farm on the map. That was appreciated. That's one really nice example of how what I think is cool about being able to see each other's comments as people are putting them on the map. So we've got one more comment. Someone said they love the walkability of their area and it's located away from heavily divided high-speed roads. I also very much appreciate how my area doesn't have sections that are very divided, but that each section flows into one another, even if my area isn't high density or downtown. That's a great comment as well. So let me see here. So thank you so much, everyone, for a really great discussion today. We have a few quick items to go through as we close out for the day. Please feel free to keep adding stuff into the chat. We're going to download that chat after this meeting. So as a reminder, this phase of engagement, which has officially started, will continue through January up until January 31st. Once this phase of engagement closes, we're going to be compiling everything we heard from all of our different engagement methods and working to make updates to the place type map based on what we're hearing. The next phase of engagement, which is going to begin in the spring of next year, 2022, is going to be a combination of more engagement on the map, as well as starting to talk about the policies, which are the actual recommendation and the words and guidance that are in the plan. So our team has committed to city council and to county commissioners that we understand who we're hearing from as we do all of our engagement for the comprehensive plan. This is important so that we can know who we're hearing from and also who we aren't hearing from, so we can adjust our engagement and outreach approaches as we go to fill in gaps to ensure that this work is reflective of the full diversity of our community. Our team is sharing a link to a demographic survey that we'll put in the chat right now. We would really appreciate it if you take just a couple of minutes right now to fill that out so that we can understand who we're reaching in these meetings. So again, we'll put that chat, that link to the survey, which just went up there. Again, we'd really appreciate it if you take just a couple of minutes to click that link, and so we can understand who we're hearing from. So a recording of this meeting is going to be made available on the city YouTube page, and we'll send a link out to that as a follow-up after this meeting. So as our very last thing, we'd like to leave you with the last plug for getting involved in this process and for getting folks that you know involved as well. Our team is dropping a link to the place type map that Kayla walked us through. So, sorry, that Brooke walked us through. So please tell your friends, tell your family, tell your neighbors, take a look at the map yourself, bring the resident engagement toolkit to a group that you know and encourage them to explore it and give feedback as well. We're also providing a link in the chat right now to the resident engagement toolkit, which has links and downloadable options for everything you need to get involved. So thank you again, everyone, so much for attending and for the feedback today. We're going to stay for just a couple of minutes so folks can grab some of those links. These links are on our engagement website, ENGAGEDurham.com as well. And I think I had one question that I owed. There was a question about coordination with the Farmland Preservation Board. And I was actually just emailing the chair of the Farmland Board just today. So we've been sharing this out. We had a meeting that was focused on North Durham last week, I think it was. Time is, there's a lot of things going on, where a number of folks attended, and I'm going to be, myself will be attending. There's a luncheon, I believe, for the Farmland Preservation Board that's coming up soon, where we'll be sharing out the map. So we know that's a really important group to reach. So again, we're dropping the links in the chat here. Thank you so much to everyone for attending and for giving your comments back. And we hope that you have a great evening. We're going to keep the meeting open again for just a couple of minutes so folks can have the links in there. But thank you. Have a good one, everyone.